Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are digging into the stack of sources you've sent us for December 10th, 2025. We're looking at astrological forecasts, psychological analyses, and a really compelling narrative story scope.
Right, yeah.
And we're boiling it all down. Because this day, it's not about gentle shifts. It seems to be a real study in extremes.
That is the absolute core tension here. You have two massive forces at play at the same time. On one hand, you have this gradual, almost spiritual movement toward clarity that's been building for months.
Okay.
And then juxtaposed against that, you get this sudden, electrical jolt of truth that just arrives with no warning at all.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack that. The dynamics of that dual energy, the sources frame the whole feeling as a soft fog clears to reveal direction. But the key thing, and what I found so interesting, is that the fog doesn't just drift away peacefully.
No, it gets violently dispersed, blown away by this unexpected flash of lightning.
Exactly. So the advice here is for you to stay flexible, to let go of this idea of perfection and just trust that clarity is coming, even if it shows up looking like total chaos.
And I'd argue the chaos isn't just a side effect. It's actually the necessary mechanism. It's what breaks through these illusions we've been holding on to.
To see the path, something has to be shattered first.
Precisely. So we should start with that foundational shift, the slow current that sort of sets the stage.
Okay, let's do it. The biggest, slowest event on the board, the one really governing that emotional, intuitive landscape, Neptune.
Right. We are focusing on Neptune stationing direct in Pisces. And this is, well, it's a monumental shift. Neptune is the planet of dreams, of spirituality, but also, illusion and delusion.
And it's been retrograde since late June.
Exactly. So when it's retrograde, it often feels like we're spiritually adrift. We're not sure where reality ends and where fantasy begins. Everything just feels hazy.
So if you've been feeling confused, or maybe you've been caught up in something deceptive like confusion about your real path, or maybe even a fantasy relationship that you knew deep down wasn't going anywhere, this is the moment.
This is the turning point. Absolutely. The source material uses this really powerful analogy for it. It describes the shift as going from a feeling of drowning to finally learning to swim. Neptune direct is when we get that spiritual buoyancy back. All those lessons we absorbed during the retrograde, maybe unconsciously, they start to materialize in the real world.
But here's a question. If Neptune governs illusion, as you said, how do we know this new clarity is actually trustworthy?
Yes.
How do we differentiate a real vision from just, a better, more organized fantasy our ego cooked up?
That's the critical question, isn't it? And this is where the idea of intuition coupled with discernment comes in. During the retrograde, a lot of people fall into what's called spiritual bypassing. Using these lofty concepts to avoid dealing with real, concrete problems. Neptune direct demands that we ground it. The clarity isn't instant. It's the ability to translate those nebulous creative visions into practical, actionable steps.
I see.
The feeling moves from just believing in a dream to actually seeing the blueprint for how to build it.
I really appreciate that distinction. So this first phase is about taking the reins of your spiritual compass again, making sure your intuition is actually grounded in reality.
Not just wishful thinking.
Right. You get to trust your gut again, but now you have the tools to vet that feeling against what's actually happening.
Precisely. It's a solidification of lessons learned the hard way. We're moving from the abstract to the concrete. But this solid new foundation is about to get tested immediately.
Right. Because as soon as that slow awakening from Neptune is underway, the universe just decides to hit the accelerator. The fog might be lifting, but then a flash of lightning reveals a truth you were maybe hoping to keep in the dark.
And that brings us to the midday event. Mercury opposes Uranus. If Neptune was a tide change, this is a high voltage surge. It's that bolt from the blue we were talking about, delivering a jolt of unexpected, disruptive information.
Yeah, straight into your head. This is where the intellectual and the intuitive just collide. Mercury is communication, logic.
And Uranus is radical awakening, sudden shock, revolution. So when they oppose each other, you get this friction that is just unavoidable, but it also ignites new possibilities.
We're talking about astonishing truth that just unfold, boom, so rapidly. This is not a gentle realization.
No.
It's the sudden arrival of data or a new concept that just instantly makes your entire mental framework obsolete.
Yeah, think about that feeling when you have an insight so powerful, you realize half of what you believed yesterday was just completely wrong. That is the energy.
It sounds so liberating, but also, frankly, terrifying.
It is.
Because it inherently challenges you to look at something you've been avoiding, either consciously or unconsciously. it forces the issue.
It absolutely does. You should expect the unexpected everywhere. Your tech glitches, travel plans go sideways, or, and this is the big one, conversations suddenly swerve into territory you are completely unprepared for.
So what felt certain yesterday now feels totally up for grabs.
Totally questionable. But on the flip side of that, the electrifying part is that things you thought were impossible, that career change, that conversation you could never imagine having, they might suddenly feel completely within reach.
The blockage is shattered by the shock.
Yes, but we do have to be mindful of the cost. The sources all warn that this alignment creates a lot of nervous energy. I mean, when your mental model of the world is breaking down, it's stressful.
Of course.
Minds are distracted, clarity can turn into just being argumentative, and yeah, miscommunications and unexpected detours are really common.
That's a crucial point. Psychologically, it's so hard to admit that a core belief was wrong. And that internal battle, that reluctance to accept the new truth, that's often what causes all the negative stuff, isn't it?
It's the ego fighting to keep the old framework. Exactly. The key to navigating this is conscious communication. Since the truths being revealed are often contrasting, your priority versus someone else's.
Yeah, the only way through is to actually listen.
Honest listening. Because we tend to listen defensively in these moments, right? We're already forming our rebuttal before they've even finished their sentence.
So the antidote to the chaos is to consciously pause, recognize that frazzled energy, and genuinely listen to the content of the message.
Instead of just reacting to the shock of it.
That's how you can meet in the middle. You can hold space for their truth without feeling like you have to sacrifice your own.
It lets you process the revelation instead of letting the revelation process you. You can still have your voice, but also acknowledge that this new, unexpected information has value, even if it feels destructive at first.
And to show exactly how this plays out, we have the StoryScope of Mara and Alistair. I mean, this story is just designed to illustrate that Mercury-Uranus energy in action.
Oh, it's perfect. The sudden clarity that comes from weird timing and revelations you definitely did not ask for.
So Mara had been feeling those early Neptune effects, right? That slow, gnawing sense that something about her research project with Alistair was just wrong.
Her intuition was screaming at her to look deeper, but she kept brushing it off, Professional anxiety, she called it.
And then the jolt hits. Her phone screen gets this impossible metallic crack.
And she didn't drop it.
No, it just cracked,
Mm-hmm.
which is the perfect manifestation of Uranus disrupting Mercury's domain technology, just failing to hold its structure.
And right after that visual breakdown, the intellectual trigger arrives. An anonymous, senderless message. It just says, "You're not seeing the full picture. Look again."
Which is basically the universal mandate for the day, delivered with zero context. It just immediately kicks off all this internal tension.
Her whole world, her certainty about her work, it's fractured. And the external world immediately starts to reflect that. The sources say her environment felt subtly misaligned.
Yeah, the trains on the timetable board were glitching, disappearing.
And conversations around her were overlapping too fast, just a cacophony. Her brain couldn't organize the incoming data anymore.
Internally, she described it as her gut instinct, that's the Neptune lesson, and her intellect, that's Mercury, starting to, quote, spark off each other.
That's the alignment right there visualized. The intuition she'd ignored is now being forced into her logical mind by an external shock. The fog is dispersing because the lightning strike demands her full attention.
So then she gets a frantic call from Alistair. He says, "Meet me at the Crown. It's about the project, about us, about everything."
And, true to form, the line dissolves into static right after, with that same faint metallic crackle.
When they meet, she's focused on the weirdness, the cracked phone, the message. But Alistair, he just cuts right to it. The intellectual revelation. He says he got undeniable proof of what they both suspected.
And the truth is, it's huge. Their entire body of research data was intentionally tampered with. It wasn't an error, it was sabotage.
Sabotage from someone higher up, is what he says. Someone who didn't want us asking the wrong questions.
And here's the reason, which is classic for this opposition. Their new findings threatened a very profitable narrative.
That one phrase, that's the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? That a profitable narrative is the certainty, the status quo that Mercury-Uranus comes to shatter.
It's what her intuition had been fighting against the whole time. The feeling that the project was structurally unsound, the shock just provided the undeniable proof.
So everything they'd built, their professional certainty, it just collapsed. But this is where Neptune's slow work really pays off. Instead of just spiraling, Mara describes this strange clarity unfolding in her mind as Alistair's talking.
All the pieces start clicking into place, the weird cancellations, the uneasy meetings. It all makes sense with the cold precision of clockwork.
The shock of betrayal was the catalyst she needed for that perfect, crystalline understanding. She wasn't imagining it.
She was just missing the mechanism of the obstruction. Now she sees it.
And they immediately hit that conflict zone the alignment predicts. Mara wants total, radical transparency. Expose everything right now.
But Alistair is paralyzed. He's terrified of the consequences, losing their careers, the legal fight, two totally contrasting priorities, but both rooted in a version of the truth.
And the source material highlights that the resolution required a rare kind of honesty. They couldn't agree on the tactic, but they could agree on the truth.
They actually listened to each other, no defensiveness. Mara didn't judge his fear, and he respected her need for integrity.
They met in the middle. They found a path that honored both the need for truth and the need for strategic preservation, which is the ideal outcome here.
It really is.
And the ending is just so dramatic. They leave the crown, and the night sky tears open with this spectacular streak of lightning.
Despite there being no clouds, it splits the air, perfectly mirroring the crack on her phone.
And the sources say the bolt hung there for a moment too long, which signals its importance. It's the universe confirming the revelation.
And in that moment, Mara's nervous tremor just transforms into purposeful action.
Her final resolution, and this is the big takeaway for you listening, is this. Now, we follow the truth wherever it leads, even if it sends us down unfamiliar roads. She gets that the sudden detour is now the only path forward.
And then one final message comes through on her phone, not anonymous this time. It feels like it's from the alignment itself. It says, "Good, you're ready. The chaos delivered the readiness."
So let's put it all together. That long-term intuitive vision from Neptune Mara's vague sense of wrongness, it wasn't enough on its own.
No, it needed the sudden external intellectual shock from Mercury opposing Uranus to force that vision into immediate, purposeful action.
The clarity had to arrive as chaos.
It had to. If the truth had arrived gently, they would have rationalized it away, protected that profitable narrative, waited for a safer time to act.
This alignment took waiting off the table. It made the truth undeniable and the action necessary.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, reflect on that tension between your instinct and your intellect right now. Where are you feeling that lingering Neptune fog, that uneasy sense that something is just misaligned?
And, maybe more pointedly, what profitable narrative in your job and a relationship and how you see yourself, what are you unconsciously protecting just because challenging it feels too risky?
This is the day that is the catalyst to stop protecting that narrative and to start following the truth no matter what detours it creates.
I remember, while these moments feel chaotic, even destructive, they are the necessary friction you need to break the boundaries of what you thought was possible.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to take with you, building on Mara's story. We often define our lives by these boundaries and certainties we assume are fixed. But when the universe delivers a shock that shatters that framework, well, the biggest revelation isn't just the new truth. It's the radical understanding that maybe what you thought was impossible is exactly what's now within your reach.
Think about that impossibility. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.